Today we at the Hangar, and I'm Nick Walker. I'm the host of Verbal Intercourse Podcast, and I'm here with the amazing Roderick Red,
Oh man.
owner of Red Square Production Company and the Hangar, who has been doing marvelous things for the city of Jackson as well as the world with providing us with film and documentaries and commercials and everything creative that this man has been producing has looked amazing. So shout out to this brother, man. I done known him for a long time, since Chastain Middle School, taking it back,
Yeah.
know his family. He's doing a great thing. I'm proud of him. So yeah, we're gonna get right on into it. How you feeling today?
Man, I'm straight, man. Thank you for having me on, brother.
Yeah, bro.
Like
yeah.
we go back, like you
Yeah.
said, all the way Chastain Middle School, Murray High School.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Went to college separately, but we stayed,
Stayed close.
And we stayed close. We repping the city, Jackson and all that stuff, man. And so honored to be on Verbal Intercourse on the podcast.
Yeah.
My
It's,
brother,
it's like a collaboration.
Yeah.
Verbal Intercourse, Red
Red
Square.
Square, hey,
So yeah, we just
for the big
hanging out
things
today.
coming.
We just hanging out today in the Hangar.
chopped it up.
Chopping it
Talking
up.
about different stuff, man.
So let's get right on into it, man. You've been creating for a while. I remember when
Yep.
you started Q to Rant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna take it back
Dang.
to the day ones.
Yeah.
I remember when you started Q to Rant, and I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool, and I was able to contribute to that.
Yeah.
So-
So you took it back.
Yeah,
Dang, I
we had to
forgot
take it
about
back. Going upstairs into your studio, you still see the pictures,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was
The
amazing
feedback.
what we actually created.
For real.
Cause we was like what 21, 22.
Two.
I was probably you was
Was-
probably 21, 22.
Yeah, we was like 22, 23. We were
22,
early.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Early.
talk to me a little bit about the root of your creative juices. How did you start creating? Because
Mhm.
I'm sure it came way before that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I don't really like to think of myself as a creative. I always think about myself like I usually think about myself as a business person first.
Okay.
But really, if we go back to the root of it, I've been creating since forever. Back in the days, I was at Chastain, I used to draw comic books. So, and I used to sell them back in the day. And who used to
I ain't know
let me
that.
do that, you know what I'm saying? Who and the Zabo and everybody. So I was drawing comic books and selling them. Before that, man, like with my family, I used to do this little magazine. I used to have papers and I would draw this magazine and like had these little pages in this book. And we would make different versions of it. And I had my cousin, my brothers and my sisters who would all contribute to this little magazine. It was like called Media Mania. I remember it to this day. So I was always drawing and stuff growing up and making stuff. And even I was selling comic books back in the day, like stuff I drew myself. So if I draw one, I have to draw it again and do it over again. So I've been creative for a long time, actually. So that's kind of the root of it. And in Murrah, I was on the Hoof Beat.
That's
which
what
is a school
I was
newspaper.
gonna say. It was called that. The
Yeah,
Hoop
Hoof
Beat.
Beat. So I was the art and photo editor. So I was going around taking pictures and stuff and being over the art and stuff like that. But yeah, and I wanted to go to college for video stuff. I wanted to go to college for photojournalism because I was in the photos.
Okay.
But I ended up changing later on to video production because I would look down the list and was like, what's somebody can do that can make me some money?
Right.
Because I was like, I don't want to be a photojournalist. I feel like they're gonna be broke. I don't know why I thought that, but that's how I ended up doing video at USM. So that's what
That's a real statement, though. I feel like if any young kids watch this video, sometimes you got to look down the list and see what's gonna make me some money.
Yeah. and that was like what was crazy though. Like at the time, which was like 2008, that was right before the video boom. That was YouTube had just started that year. So I was actually like,
Dang, you
I was
started in 08?
like really started to get. It started.
Oh,
probably
really started to blow up in 08.
Like started to be. It was around, but like nobody was like it
Yeah.
was barely on there. You know what I'm saying? But it really caught on like 2009, where it's like YouTube was like it ain't even near like what it is now. But so actually, I kind of like started to get into something as it was. I got into video at the best possible time.
Right.
Like, there's no time in history getting into video could have ever worked out better. Just like, unfortunately, when like George Floyd was murdered, is no better time for me to be black right now. So it was like I'm doing a job in video where, like, it's the best time to be doing video and be good at it. But then also it's a good time. It's a better time to be black in what we do too. So it's like I'm kind of like set up to it's kind of hard for me to fail. As long, you know what I'm saying? As long as I just show up and do what we're supposed to do at this time, like we're gonna be successful. So
How? The question I wanted to ask is how rare is it to be a black owner of a film production company, especially in the Southeast? Like, talk to me a little bit about the challenges that can go with it, as well as kind of, you know, you having a chip on your shoulder about it, and you know, it's professional. That's and everything.
Great question. I mean, it's so rare here in the South to be a black video creator and in Mississippi, that it basically is non-existent here.
Yeah.
So in Jackson, Mississippi, when it comes to video production and video production companies, there ostensibly are none. I mean, there are some advertising agencies here in the city that do a little bit of video or do a lot of bit of video, but we were the only, at one point we were Red Square Productions, we were the only video production company in the city. Now, when I say company, I mean like people and staff and team members. There was a lot of people making videos. There was a lot of individuals or even duos that were kind of making videos, but ostensibly we were it. And so, and that's just video production, period. And then also we were black. So obviously we were the only ones doing that as well. So it was pretty rare here. And that's just kind of what it is like growing up in Mississippi, or just being in Mississippi, is that we lack some of those jobs that aren't, I don't know what the specific name is. I had it on the tip of my tongue, but we lack a lot of knowledge-based jobs in Mississippi. So being able to sit at a computer screen and work, those jobs, most of the jobs in Mississippi are factory jobs, plant jobs, manual labor, and that's really the type of jobs that the state government really tries to continue to bring here. You know what I'm saying? And that, you know, in itself is an issue, because if Mississippi is going to grow outside of that base, you know what I'm saying, we need to be able to have knowledge-based jobs here. The reason why Atlanta and Dallas and these other places got stuff going on, when I was in Atlanta recently, you see all these people staying at these nice hotels because they work in these places that have these knowledge-based jobs where they're not in the plant working. They dealing with like strategic stuff and doing finances or doing advertising like we do, or doing whatever that is, and it's knowledge-based jobs because they exist there. You know what I'm saying? So that brings a certain clientele there, which in turn brings certain types of businesses there, certain types of hotels, certain types of food. That's why you're able to get there. Mississippi kind of is stuck in that area because it doesn't want to grow outside of its, you know, initial base, and they think that, oh, we hard-working Mississippians, we'll work in a factory. Ain't nothing wrong working in a factory. But if that's like your economic base when it comes to being a state, then you limit your future, not only economically, but just like, you know, recreationally too.
Right.
You don't realize that. So
I believe our millennial generation, you know, you just had a son. I think us as parents, we're going to cultivate and try to mature that creates those creative juices that our children have. And, you know, you speak at the rarity of film production companies, especially in Mississippi. And I think it's due to our parents not seeing people do those type of things, them not having the access to be able to even have the time to be creative. They were so worried about so many other things, you know, to even have the time to be creative. So I wanted to ask, do you think that, you know, with you having your production company, do you think you have the ability to inspire the youth, or do you even have ideas to kind of bring the youth in to kind of cultivate their mind to go towards creating and film production and all of those type of things?
Most definitely. Yeah. Being from Jackson Public Schools, JPS, man, it's always about, I'm always thinking about like how I can give back and how important it is for people to see different people do different stuff. One of the ways in which I met my wife is when she worked for an organization called Alignment Jackson. They had a big career fair, and somebody connected us because they thought my company was cool and was like, hey, y'all should show up at this career fair alongside all these other boring businesses and these other boring other stuff. Y'all exciting because y'all do video and y'all got drones. And so one of the reasons why, and this fair actually cost us money. It's a huge career fair, but it was for JPS students particularly. And it was at a time we were small, but I was like, we paid the money because I thought it was important to be a part of it so that the JPS students could see a JPS graduate with a business that's different from the normal business, a creative business. So I think it's super important to kind of give back there. And so we think that's important. And just by proxy, two things, just by proxy of like being the only video, or one of the only video production companies here in the city, we get calls all the time from film students, from creative students, from Jack State, Belhaven, MilSep students that are looking for internships, looking for opportunities, because they Google, again, you Google video production in Jackson, Mississippi, we're it.
Right.
That's all that's here. So they look it up, they see us online, they see our work, and they're like, oh, I want to work that. I want to do this. And so because of that, we ended up starting an organization, a nonprofit organization called Fleet, which is basically a way to connect creative professionals and grow and train aspiring creative professionals. And so that idea came from, again, people reaching out wanting to be a part of what we were doing, and us kind of needing to create an avenue for that to be done, because we're still a small company.
Right.
We couldn't take on, like I couldn't take, if I took on all the interns that wanted to be an intern, I couldn't do our jobs here. But the truth of the matter is, too, here's a double-edged sword about living in Mississippi. Almost everybody that we have working here, like I don't have a huge pool of employees to pull from. A lot of my employees came here, started off young, and had to learn on the job. So because they had to learn on the job, then that means it took us a little longer to get to where we wanted to go or where we want to be, you know. And also I had to learn on the job too as we were growing, because I was young. But so like whereas where I could go to Atlanta and find somebody that's been shooting film for 10 years and can do X, Y, Z, here, like outside of the few people I know, everybody else is like brand new with a camera. So us having to kind of foster and create this industry ourselves has been a kind of the catalyst behind why we have been fostering creative growth amongst young people, because we need them to stay here to do it. Yeah. And if the state not going to do it, then Red Squared, then Fleet, and the Hangar are going to be tools in which we're going to do it ourselves to make it happen.
Yeah, that's amazing, bro. That's definitely trailblazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's you building a culture, and when we get older, people gonna look back and say, okay, Rod was the first one to bring that
trying to do it
afloat. You know,
I'm inspired by, look, we stand on the shoulders of giants. You hear people say that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm making a documentary right now about Mount Bayou, Mississippi, first black town, or arguably the first black town in this country, and the most successful black town in this country, all black town that's still around. You know, this town was founded in 1889, and it was super prosperous. You know what I'm saying? And it was born out of the most racist state in the country.
Yeah.
The most prosperous black town ever was born out of most. So when you're doing that, it's kind of the same thing. You know, we stand on those shoulders of people like, Isaiah T. Montgomery, or the different individuals who work through there to build up Mount Bayou. The same thing here. We working in a state that don't have a whole lot of resources, the worst education, by far. The people leaving the state, biggest brain drain. We're gonna try to reverse that. We're gonna try to do everything we can. Something like Fleet and the Hangar and all this stuff is being born out of it, because real pressure makes diamonds, baby. You know, that's definitely what it is. So that's what we got to try to do.
Definitely, and that's amazing, man. I done saw quite a bit of your documentary, so I kind of want you to kind of talk a little bit about, if they don't know much about Red Squared or Fleet, tell the people a little bit about some of your productions that you've created thus far.
So Red Squared is it was a production company I started in 2012.
Yeah.
And it since transformed into what we call a communication design company, which is basically expands our services. So in 2019, we merged with Simeon Media Group, and we became Red Squared. We just dropped the productions. And we still do video production, but we also do web development, branding, graphic design. We're basically an advertising agency for today. We call ourselves a culture-powered company. You know what I'm saying? Because we focus on, we like to pull jobs that focus on culture, that focus on our city. And we like to do work with clients that are doing positive impacts on things that we believe in here. So we don't like to work on stuff we don't necessarily not believe in. But Red Squared Red Squared Productions became Red Squared. And, we do commercials, high-end commercials. We do videos, we do branding campaigns, development, design, and things like that for all kinds of companies and nonprofits and governmental entities. And one of our specialties in what we do is documentary filmmaking. So we produced several documentary films, including Mississippi Left Me Out in 2016.
Which was amazing.
It was about, thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Which was about the state's lack of wanting to expand Medicaid, yeah. And then in 2021, we produced The Defenders, which is right now going through we produced that alongside the Foundation Mississippi History and Mississippi Department of Archives and History, and that's about civil rights lawyers in the South and their trials and tribulations. And that's right now going through the film festival circuit. It's been nominated for a couple awards at some film festivals, Best Short Doc at the Morehouse Human Rights Film Festival, and it'll be screening up in D.C. In late September at the March on Washington Film Festival.
Wow.
And so that's gonna be cool. I'm on a panel up there speaking about that, so I get to go to D.C. and talk about that, which is exciting. And then right now our latest documentary is called Promised Land, and it's a story about Mound Bayou, Mississippi. And so we're really excited about this one. And this is just about a story about Mound Bayou. A lot of folks don't know about Mound Bayou.
I didn't know about it until you brought it to my attention.
Yeah, so we want to be making a documentary that is going to be informational and also, hopefully inspiring, man. It's like I said, Mound Bayou is arguably the oldest black town in the country. There's a few more that kind of came around at the same time. They like to say they are, but I don't. To be technically correct, I'd be like, I don't know. But they are arguably the oldest black town in the country, founded by ex-slaves, and at one point was was the richest county and city in the state of Mississippi, and boasted a lot of resources. And so it has several up and down kind of stories through it. Theodore Roosevelt went through the town one year and called it the Jewel of the Delta, because it had a railroad, and it was in the early 1900s when cotton was king, and Mound Bayou cotton was so world renowned and sought after. Rich people would come to Mound Bayou to get their cotton because it was just the high end stuff. And President Theodore Roosevelt was going to Jackson, going to New Orleans, passing through on his train, and stopped in Mound Bayou, and stopped because he was so surprised. He got there and it was an all black town, and it was rich. Like Negroes had, black people had on suits, and people was like, it was this town that had all this money and all these resources, and he stopped it. He was like, he couldn't believe. He was like, look at this. Like, this is a town. And he actually got up, and it was an impromptu speech that he gave on this town, and he talked about the greatness of America in that speech. Because he was just this was like the early 1900s, so, people still look at black people like that now. But he was just even more so like, wow, like this. And he talked about the greatness of America, that we could have an all black town in this country. He was just like happy, like, look at America, man. We got all black town in Mississippi. It's the most beautiful town I've ever seen, and it's all this black town. And he called it in that speech the Jewel of the Delta, which is still Mound Bayou's nickname today, the Jewel of the Mississippi Delta. And so,
man, I'm looking forward to that, bro.
Hey, I'm excited to kind of tell that story and put that out there, man. But this is a story that's got to be told. People don't like black, like it's, a guy in the documentary mentioned, like, a lot of African Americans don't have a home when we get taken from Africa and brought here, and slavery and had to go through that. We had this weird relationship with America. When we talk about places like Mound Bayou, it was the first time in history where a black town was free to be able to be them. Black people were able to be themselves, and there was no threat from white people on the outside. There was no, Emmett Till was murdered in Money, Mississippi. Mamie Till came down and stayed in Mound Bayou because it was the only safe place to stay in the whole state of Mississippi, where you had to worry about nobody running up in there. The Klan couldn't run up in there. Nobody wanted to go in there and mess with Mound Bayou because it was their own thing. It was all black. There was no racial discrimination because everything was all black. Right. And so we used to it now, but that was completely unheard of in the early 1900s, 30s, 40s, 50s. You know what I'm saying? Going to a place where everybody, like Jackson, all black now, but like,
back then it wasn't.
Like then it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So, but that was the only place where you could go in the whole state where it was like, and it was the only place where they had a hospital where black people could get treated. Back in the day, black people had to go to hospitals, and they had to go to the basement, and they could barely get any medical help. Mound Bayou had the Taborian Hospital, the only hospital in the whole state. Black people around the whole state used to go to Mound Bayou to go to the hospital because it was the only hospital they go to get treated like a person. Yeah. I could walk through the front door and see doctors that were black and see nurses that was black and take care of me. So that was huge for Mound Bayou. We talking about those little things when we don't realize, but that's huge. So.
And I think from watching your documentaries, I think it's very important that you, I feel like you uplift the black people without putting the trauma in there. Like the defenders, I left watching that documentary proud of you and proud of the people that you uplifted in the documentary. I think that's very important these days, because especially when you're teaching a lot of people about their history, especially black history, they a lot of people our age, they shy away from the movies, Hollywood movies and documentaries, because they feel like it's so it's depressing, it's tragic, triggering.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why that's important for black people to tell black stories.
Right.
That's why that's so important, because the way in which, and it was interesting making the Mountain Bayou documentary. When you hear about a documentary being made, and everybody at Mountain Bayou was super skeptical. They were skeptical up to the point they met me.
They had to see who you was.
And when they met me, they still was a little skeptical. But once I talked to them, a lot of them were like my grandmama, were like my uncles.
Yeah.
And once I talked to them, once I dapped them up and was like, where you from there? Where you from? I'm from Jackson, around down the road over there. I had to tell them, look, my mama and them from Greenwood, Mississippi. My dad from Port Gibson. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. So that's why it's important for black people to tell black stories, because we can kind of tell it in a way where, it has less trauma because it's coming from our perspective. Right. I know what it feel like to be, to have racist stuff happen to you and be a black man in America. So if I'm gonna tell the story, I'm gonna be a little careful with the story, because it's my story, you know what I'm saying? It's mine, as opposed to like even the most well-meaning white person can tell that same story, but they're not gonna tell it like a black person was gonna tell it.
Yeah, man.
So it's important to have those skills, and what we get caught into a lot of times is that sometimes black people want to tell a story, but might not necessarily have the skills. Right. And so we got the skills, and we got the background, history, and the credibility. Don't nobody want to watch a Mountain Bayou documentary made by a white person today, especially. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's so important that a black Mississippian tell the story about an all black town. I ain't necessarily got to be from there, but I got roots there. And if I'm from Mississippi, I got roots there. But it's also important too for somebody to have the skill to do it. Because you just don't, also you don't just want to let anybody tell it, because it's like, can you even make a documentary, bro? You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, not really. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to have both of them. Like, okay, you got the skill set, the wherewithal, and then are you one of us? Are you our people? Are you our people? You good? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, a lot of that stuff can be solved in Hollywood, and a lot of commercial stuff. That's what sets us apart. That's why we're a culture power agency, is that, especially after the murder of George Floyd, a lot of people will make commercials for black people, but then when nobody black work on a commercial, and then wonder why it didn't resonate with nobody. And I was like, well, all you had to do was ask one black person what you thought about this commercial, and they would have told you what to say. Right. You know what I'm saying?
It's a bunch of those in the 90s.
A lot of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one gets together and makes a commercial for women and don't have a woman in there to ask her, you know what? We make this tampon commercial. Should we not have a woman help us write this commercial, so we can talk to them the right way? Right. It's the same thing should go for black people. We're going to make this commercial to try to get black people to sign up for something. Let's get a black person to make it. Right. And so that's why it's kind of good right now to kind of be in business right now, because it's like people are kind of realizing the obvious, that hey,
black people always had talent.
They always had talent, and that if you're trying to talk to them, let's get somebody to talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Let's get somebody in the rooms and do this. If you're trying to sell them something, get a black person to tell it. Right. Duh. It seemed like, but it's like they just not catching up. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, man, we kicking it in the Hangar, man. Tell us a little bit about that. I saw you make a post on Instagram about what the Hangar is. Let's shift focus a little bit. Let's talk about the Hangar. So where do you see this going, and what is the Hangar?
Man, so the Hangar is this 22,000 square foot building that's in Midtown Jackson. So it is. When I moved into this building in 2014, and I was renting it out. It was owned by a nonprofit called Midtown Partners. I recently purchased it in 2019, late 2019, 2020, and I purchased it in 2020, and it was initially a creative incubator space. So it was the opportunity for me to move in and move my company. It was my company's first headquarters. When I started my company, Red Square, it was out of my mama's house, out of my uncle's car lot, and my mama's house, and then they moved in here. And so I was renting the space, and then we were able to buy the building. And so when we were able to realize we can buy this building, we can get it, but let me go before that, it was a creative incubator space. So I was able to move my company in here and able to rent space for cheap. So this was pivotal for a business like me who couldn't afford a big overhead for a company. And so it was great, right? I could move in for cheap rent, but also it gave me access to different people that were in Midtown. And different resources like Millsaps College and their business school, who gave us a lot of help doing business plans and all that stuff, and interns. And so it gave me a lot of resources and credibility. When you open up a spot and you open up a space, it makes you look like, okay, you got some stuff going on. So that was huge for us, as being in the creative incubator space. It incubated us, it helped us grow to the point where we bought a building. And we bought the building in 2020, and once I bought it, the ideas was going on. I'm super
Everywhere.
visionary.
Yeah.
I realized like, so this was always going to be, my company is going to be based out of here. But because of the size of the building, it's a big building and it's a warehouse attached to it. And so it made me realize that I want to start a soundstage. And so the Hangar is going to be the first of its kind in Jackson, Mississippi, state-of-the-art, industry standard, creative office space and professional soundstage area. And so what does that mean? So the office portion of the Hangar will house businesses like mine, Red Squared, and a plethora of other ones. Whoever got a business that, a knowledge-based business they want to be a part of, any financial companies or different organizations, if they want to have offices here, they will have office space here for them. The downstairs area will be a big open office space, have with a co-working feel. So you'll have amenities here where you have your own private offices for your business, but also kind of a co-working feel for it in this space as well. And it'll be huge. It's a huge building. It'll also have, the Hangar will also house Red Square Rentals, Red Square Productions Rentals, which I started in 2018. And so that was another business that came out of necessity. It's kind of weaved into Red Square right now, but it's now been kind of placed into the Hangar. And Hangar itself, by the way, is its own separate business now.
Okay.
But the Red Square Productions Rentals is where we rent film equipment out. And so we're the only film equipment rental agency in the state of Mississippi. And so we rent our extra film equipment, our extra gear, anything we have, we rent it. We're taking it to the next level when it moves into this building, and we're gonna specifically cater to film equipment rentals and photography. And so this will be a spot that if you come to shoot a movie in Jackson, you come to shoot anything in Jackson, as people already were, they call us, you can come back up your truck and get all types of film equipment rentals, from C-stands, low boys, all types of stuff. We're gonna have all the film equipment rentals here in the city. So no longer films will have to go to New Orleans or Memphis to get film equipment. They'll be able to get it right here in the capital city. And then lastly, with the warehouse, we're doing a professional industry standard soundstage. And it's important that it's industry standard because we soundproof it in case Denzel want to come shoot his next movie here. He can do it right here.
Mississippi Masala.
That's what it is. Look, Mississippi Masala too. You know what I'm saying? Come through. But no, it's going to be industry standard because we want to be industry proof in case, the industry ever comes here to Mississippi. But really, it's really for the local people because we recognize that the soundstage is going to be very useful for the community. It's for that community of creative people, the local photographers, the local video people, the local advertising agencies. If you got any one of those companies, if you got a visual company, photo, video, the Hangar is going to be the space you're going to hear about, and it's going to be the space you want to be at. And so we're going to have this big sound stage. It's going to have a huge cyc wall. It's going to have digital screens, staging. You'll be able to, big trusses where you'll be able to kind of group and do lighting. We have production offices, editing suites, hair and makeup, all those rooms. Everything will be in the Hangar. It'll be industry standard. It'll be all set up to the T, and it'll be run here through the Hangar. And so the Hangar will be this big creative hub. If you're making music, we have a sound studio in here as well. So whether you're making music, whether you're doing photography, whether you're doing video, this is gonna be the spot where you're gonna do it at, and it's gonna house Red Square and a bunch of other businesses, including Fleet, our nonprofit. Any of the podcasting, bring y'all in there. We're gonna do it. All that. That's gonna be the spot to do it at. So the Hangar is gonna serve that be the creative infrastructure that's been needed to help foster the growth for the creative community in Jackson. That's simply what the Hangar is gonna be. Because right now there's nowhere creative people can gotta go as a hub, right? And dudes that's shooting photos, dudes that's doing video, dudes that's doing podcasting. They doing it out of their house. They doing it their friend thing. They do it at a little studio around the corner.
Right.
This is gonna be the spot. And we want to be that spot so that they can meet each other and grow their creative community so that we can actually have a creative community so it can grow.
Yeah, man, it sounds amazing. When do you think it will be up and running?
So we are in the preliminary development stage right now. So we actually got the architectural, the mechanical, and the electrical layouts for the building. So theoretically, we can hand it over to a general commercial contractor and start tomorrow.
Yeah.
But when we hand that over, we also got to hand over about $5 to $7 million too for them to do the work. So there's going to be, we're working on right now securing some funding, trying to gather up some resources. The actual work to the building, once the money is kind of secured, probably won't be less than a year because the work that's going to have to be done inside the building isn't extensive. It's really just knocking down walls and cleaning up stuff and leveling floors and soundproofing areas and stuff like that. So it's not super hard work. The biggest thing is money. So we can set it up that if people want to give want to donate to the Hangar and see this thing come to life, you know, we can give them some information, share some information in the future. We're working on securing partners. We got some out-of-state partners, some big partners we're gonna reveal soon, but also just some in-state folks, man. We want to just get behind it because again, this is creative infrastructure. This is gonna be life-changing. This is basically workforce development here, creative workforce development.
Right.
So it's gonna create tons of jobs. People having to watch this building, having to rent stuff to people, having to take care of the building, and then obviously having that space to be able to. The film community is gonna be huge to what we're doing here, and so all that space is gonna have to be useful here. And so probably depending on if we're able to secure the funds that we need to by early next year, this time next year we should be able to see significant developments in this building. And by the end of 2023, going into early 2024, is when you'll start to really see the Hangar really kind of come to life in that respect. And it'll more than likely be piecemealed out. We'll start one area at a time, and move from there.
Man, that sounds dope, bro. I'm
Right.
gonna tell you, man, it's crazy because, like I said, when I started out, we grew up together.
Yeah.
So to see you expand and expound and grow and mature, it's a beautiful thing to watch, man.
I
So
appreciate it.
I'm proud of
you. You doctor too, man. I appreciate you, man. I can see yours coming, man. Big time hooper into look, doctor of physical therapy out here, man. Making sure people fixing them after you break their ankles, you fixing their ankles.
Hey,
man. That's what we doing.
Hey, I try, man, but it's really amazing to see you doing great work, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
So we're gonna end this interview with a fun question. I always wanted to ask you this. I don't know why I never asked you, but since you are a person that creates documentary and we both love basketball, what's your favorite basketball documentary?
Favorite basketball documentary? Oh man, the Jordan documentary.
I knew you was gonna say that. That's an easy answer.
I mean, I was seen a couple of them, but that was the one.
I'm gonna tell you one that you should check out, which is critically acclaimed. If you type in best basketball documentaries, it's gonna pop up every time. It's Hoop Dreams.
Hoop Dream. Oh yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I've seen it, but it has been so long since I saw it. Though.
Yeah, because it follows two inner city kids.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it follows them from 9th grade to 12th grade and see how they progress and all the trials and tribulations they go through.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been amazing talking to you, bro.
Appreciate it.
And
man.
we're gonna have to sit down and do this again sometime.
Oh, we do. I got a few more things I want to say though.
Oh yeah. Go
about
ahead,
the
bro.
creative industry. But while we on hooping, who you got this year? And was you surprised? I told you Golden State was gonna win, by the way.
Yeah, you did.
I told you.
And I think everybody that watched Boston versus Golden State knew that Boston had a better team, but they lacked mental and physical toughness.
Which I said I was like, have you been there before?
I thought they was ready. It's tough because I look at Boston now as a team that's never gonna get back unless they make a significant change. Yep. They scared to pull the trigger now, but it's kind of like when Atlanta lost to Tom Brady from lost to 28 to 3 lead. It's like once you get fractured like that, you can say we gonna be back next year.
No, you won't.
But you won't.
Now that he's like,
you won't. Everybody's saying, oh, they young, they 24, they 25.
I mean, they had the better team, but it was like fragile. Now it's too late. Now niggas like, oh no, you ain't gonna get better. Y'all ain't got enough. And the only way you can do that is if you got some real superstars that's like grinding in there, because you got to have players that's like we gonna push through it no matter what. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when in the Heat days when Brown was there, even with the Lakers, they didn't do nothing this year. But like every year, I got to see them too. Every year.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is coming. He's gonna be the person that I think he'll somewhere eventually in his career win back to back at least.
Oh yeah.
I
hope
think
so. It's all up in the air now.
Dream documentary.
Dream documentary.
What would be the dream documentary, the dream story that you would shoot?
Ooh, man, the Mount Bayou one was actually a good one. It was a documentary I started on that I never did get a chance to really get all the way through. It was about CJSO.
Really?
Yeah, the Central Jackson Soccer Organization. That story is incredible, and it'd be dope to follow a kid that's in it right now.
Nah, but my dream for you though?
What?
I want you to do a documentary on Chris Jackson.
Oh,
and how he was blacklisted from the NBA because I think that documentary would be amazing. Because you got Colin Kaepernick. But before Colin Kaepernick, it was Chris Jackson. You know what I'm saying? And
What did you get blacklisted for?
Huh?
What did you get blacklisted for?
Well, he changed. He converted to Islam, and then the national anthem. The national anthem was, and he didn't put his hand over his heart. He didn't really acknowledge the national anthem. And people like if you hear people like Phil Jackson talk, when they talk about Steph Curry, he was like, oh, that's just a remake of Chris Jackson. That's the exact word, because Chris Jackson is the greatest basketball player in Mississippi history. If you did that documentary, that would be on ESPN. I'm pretty sure it would be, because the story was so big.
Yeah.
You got a player that he was the upcoming guard in the NBA, and gets basically and then it's crazy because he's still here.
You got to executive produce it. Come on, let's do it.
Hey, bruh, I'm telling you, that would be an amazing documentary, because you got to realize Chris Jackson is like 50 years old, still playing in the Big Three, still effective, still can get 30.
What's his Muslim name now? Is it Raul?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I know it's Jackson.
Abdul Raul.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, look, that's what it is. Well, the only thing I wanted to say was about the film community in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because we kind of talked about it, but we ain't really.
Let me just say this for the film community. So the thing that drives me crazy about the film community here, well, it don't drive me crazy about the film community, it's people's assumptions about the film community here. And so it is of my opinion that the film community here does not exist. And so we get calls all the time from people who are looking for people to work on a film set, but they don't take into careful consideration where they're calling to or who they're asking. And so I said to you earlier, it's like going to, a small town looking for a surgeon. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like there's no hospital here. Why would there be a surgeon in this little small town? Like when people come here, HBO, NBC, they're looking for people. There are no professional production managers here, because there is no film community here. You know what I'm saying? And what we're trying to do is change that. You know what I'm saying? But the big thing that needs to happen is that people need to recognize where they're going. You know what I'm saying? And if it sounds good that now everybody wants to, we want to be inclusive. We want to have, black people on set and local people, local communities on set. But it's like, how you gonna have a local, production manager, a local first AC in a community that doesn't have a film community? So there is no local first AC. Right. When you do your work as an organization that's coming to Mississippi, you actually got to do the work. Like, know what you're talking about when you come here, or know where you're going before you get here. You know what I'm saying? And so I get it that you don't necessarily want to make assumptions about a place or a town, but you should ask. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of roads lead to us because we're it, but also you should just use common sense. If you Google a place and you can't find a certain spot there, that you need to assume that it's probably not, it isn't conducive to that environment. You know what I'm saying? If you Google a small town in Idaho, and for a video production company, you can't find it, you should probably assume that there's not a lot of people making videos in Boise, Idaho. That's okay, or wherever, to think. But it used to drive me crazy, because it's just like these people that are we looking for these professionals, and they weren't here, and I just have to go and explain this to everybody all the time. I explain this to people once every other week about, okay, they're like, because I am the Red Squared is the de facto. I'm looking for some film people to put on set. Do you know anybody? No, I don't. Or actually, I'd say, yes, I do. Here are the numbers of 3 people, but also he works at a bank, he works at a TV station, and he works at an architectural firm. You know what I'm saying? So, right. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's annoying to just be having to say that over and over again. And I just wish, people, and I think my annoyance really kind of came from, I overheard a conversation one time in a coffee shop about some people complaining about shooting a film in Jackson and not being able to find local help. And they were complaining about it without realizing like how stupid they look complaining about it. It's like if you was in a small town going, man, I just cannot find a Gucci store for nothing. Like, what's this place? Like, they ain't got no Gucci stores around here? Like, come on, bro.
Right.
It's like what you look like complaining about a Gucci store in a small town. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they was legit complaining about not being able to find a production manager in Jackson, Mississippi. And it's like, bro, you in Jackson, Mississippi. Like, do you know where you at? Like, why would there be one here? But it drove me crazy because I knew that they were here to shoot a film because they were too broke to shoot it somewhere else.
Right.
So if you'd have shot it in LA, you'd have all you needed. But guess why you didn't shoot it in LA? Because it was too expensive to shoot in LA. So you came to Mississippi to shoot it for free or shoot it for cheap. But then when you got here, you was like, oh, ain't no resources here. Well, you had to pick, my boy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, you didn't shoot it in Atlanta for a reason because it would have cost you to get more permitting. It would have cost for you would have to pay those professionals more. They thought they can come here and find some cheap people to pay to do X, Y, Z and save money on their film. But it was like, they came here and was like, oh, there's actually nobody here to work on the film. And then they started complaining about it. And it was like, well, where you at, bro? Like, how you complain about, you know?
Yeah, that's just like going to IHOP, getting mad that they ain't got waffles.
Come on now, for real. Or being mad that like these ain't the gourmet waffles. It's like, bro, you at IHOP.
Yeah.
Like, where you at? Like, look where you at. Like, you thought you was gonna get some gourmet waffles in IHOP, my boy.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you look like. So to complain about that, I almost wanted to go over and say something, but I ain't even gonna say nothing. So hopefully this gets out. And people can like know, like, we're trying to grow the film community here. The Mississippi ostensibly doesn't have one, and so we're, you know, and when I say that, like, there's people here that do film, so, you know, and I know those folks that do film, but like when I say we don't have one, you kind of don't have one. You know, when I say, I don't
it ain't
mean
no
like
shade. It's just saying the facts.
Like the facts is like, it's like, yeah, I know you shoot video, and I know you do film over here, but like, okay, after 3 of y'all, who else is doing it? All right. We here. You know what I'm saying?
You can count on
people get mad. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no hoopers here. You like, I ain't mean like you just can't hoop.
I mean, but how many can you name?
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. How many of y'all can really do this? Like, that's what it is. So I wanted to get that off my chest. The creative community here in Jackson is incredible and amazing and needs the opportunity and the outlet to do its thing. The state needs to kind of get behind. The state needs to get behind the city of Jackson. The state of Mississippi will not be successful without the city of Jackson.
No.
And the biggest issue with the state of Mississippi is that it's trying to be successful in spite of the city of Jackson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I hope that there's some recognition that comes out of like, Jackson needs to be nurtured and taken care of because it's in a bad place. I also get mad, you know, another thing that gets mad, and we're gonna get controversial now, when people complain about the city of Jackson.
Let's talk about
this is why, so right now we complain about the water for the city of Jackson, right?
Right.
And the infrastructure. I'm mad like you that my water don't always be on, or it's not, I gotta boil it all the time. But I don't get mad at the city of Jackson because I recognize where it comes from, right? To boil it down simply before I go into my long tirade, racism. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. The reason why Jackson is in the situation it's in is racism. And if you don't know that, you need to do your research because you
better ask somebody.
Now, I know a lot of our people don't know that because they just want to complain like, hey, our water don't work. Chokeway, what's going on?
Chokeway influence.
They stole all the money. Bro, quite simply put, racism is where we at. What do I mean by that? Jackson infrastructure is terrible because it hasn't been upkept in 50 to 70 years. Why hasn't it been upkept? Because we ain't had the money to upkeep it. Why we ain't had the money? Because Jackson was losing his tax base after segregation ended. After the federal government mandated that segregation was illegal. And remember, the state of Mississippi didn't, even when the federal government mandated segregation end, the state of Mississippi still didn't integrate schools.
Right.
The federal government had to send troops to make the state of Mississippi integrate schools.
And FBI
so basically, and troops. And so basically, when the federal government made people integrate schools, white people in the city of Jackson left. Right. Jackson was mostly white in the 50s and the 60s. In the late 60s, early 70s, integration was mandated here. You know, state of Mississippi ignored it for a long time till the federal government was like, okay, we need to make y'all niggas do this. So they made them do it. Once they did it, Jackson Prep popped up, Jackson Academy popped up, Madison County, Ridgeland Grow. All those areas grew. Madison County schools, all those areas grew. White flight. That happened around the country. But it really happened here in the state of Mississippi. So what does that got to do with Jackson? If you got, you know, every year from the late 1960s up until 2011, 1968 to 2011, every year Jackson, Mississippi lost residents. It wasn't until 2012 where Jackson didn't see a net gain. It just saw a net, it just was zero.
Yeah.
We didn't lose people. So for, I don't know how many years that is, almost 60, 70, almost 50 years, the city of Jackson lost residents. What does that mean for its taxes? Look, if you got a job and your bills is $2,000 a month and your job pay you $4,000 a month, and every year you lose money on your paycheck, instead of making $4,000, you make $35,000, $3,000, $2,500, $2,000, $1,500. Guess what's gonna happen over after years? You ain't gonna be able to pay your bills after a while.
Right.
So Jackson wasn't able to upgrade their infrastructure for large swaths of that whole time. And so there's also abandoned buildings. There's also infrastructure crumble. There's also all that stuff that's happening right now.
Crumble.
Education, all of that. With that, you know, who are the people that are able to move? The best, the brightest, the people that have money. Who does that leave? Poor people.
Right.
So
poor, disabled.
And so guess what happens when you got a city that's full of poor people that don't have a lot of options or resources? Guess what happens? Guess what go up?
Bang, bang, bang.
Crime, okay? Also, crime goes up because there's also the most people here. There's also a lot of crime in New York City because there's a lot of people in New York City. But you don't necessarily see it all the time, but there's crime in New York City. So all those things happen. Infrastructure gets down. The city of Jackson goes down. All that stuff is happening. So when I see somebody complain about the city of Jackson without having that real knowledge of like, where are we at now? And they want to complain about, well, who stole the money for X, Y, Z? Bro, what money? You know what I'm saying? The infrastructure costs $2 billion to fix. Now the city of Jackson has over the couple of years dealt with some people stealing some money here and there, but you're talking about people stealing some money, but we are already broke and poor anyway. Right. So they've instituted things like the 1% sales tax that, you know, will get us $20 million a year to put towards infrastructure. People always ask, well, why y'all use that $20 million a year to fix infrastructure? We are. How much it costs to fix infrastructure? $2 billion. Okay, so here we go. It's going to take some time and some years because the whole infrastructure in Jackson needs to be kicked up and remade. So even here's the thing that people be sleeping on. People like our mayor, Chokwe, who ain't perfect but has plans and has been working on it. He had plans. He was like, look, we're going to use some of this 1% infrastructure money to fix West Jackson. We're going to use some grant money we got from the federal government to fix South Jackson. We're going to go to North Jackson. We're going to get some other pot of money to start to fix this. The mayor's office went to the state of Mississippi and said, hey, state of Mississippi, help give us some money to fix the infrastructure just downtown. The Lumumba administration did, well, how are we going to fund these resources to fix our infrastructure? What can we fix? And so the plan they came up with about putting those different resources from different pots of money into different areas. Not even having all $2 billion, but hey, here go 200, 300 million. We can kind of move around to get some stuff rolling, rocket and rolling with, all right? The state of Mississippi, the city of Jackson went to the state of Mississippi and said, hey, look at this plan we got. Again, this is supposed to be the state, and this is the state. This is your capital city. This ain't like some side chick that you don't like or some. This is your capital city in which you do business in every year between January and March. You meet in Jackson because it's your capital. This is supposed to be a place you care about. It went to the state of Mississippi and was like, hey, help us do the infrastructure down. Can you give us X amount of dollars or whatever you got? Help us fix the infrastructure just downtown. You ain't got to do where Jack's fucking niggas. Hey, just do. You come up here for the legislative session, right? Fix your pipes, then. You know what I'm saying? Let you have clean water.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the state of Mississippi said, nah, we good. Like straight up. He was like, and that is the classic tell of Mississippi because it's like, I shoot myself in the foot if I got to, nigga. I don't care. That ain't got nothing to do with me. It's an act of negligence, right? It's not like I'm going to hold you down. You doing good, nigga. Let me hold you down. It's just like, nah, like you took over the city. I can have it.
But you know, that's you specifically talking about Jackson right now, but the state of Mississippi and their politicians as a whole, as well as the voters, it's like they can't read. It's like, they will continuously vote against their best interest
because they're animated by other things they're animated by national politics that don't make no sense.
Right.
And they're back behind it. They get behind the R before they get behind the D. You know what I'm saying? Just because of that. The second example, and this is how I know, you was like, oh, the state ain't not to get to that. This is the second example how I know. Jackson Public Schools, recently in the past couple of years, got an F as a school district. right?
Wow.
A couple years ago. If you get 2 Fs in a row, per the state constitution, the state of Mississippi got to take over your school district.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Education, the state of Mississippi got to take it over.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Public Schools got 2 Fs in a row. Per the constitution, the state of Mississippi, the state got to go take that motherfucker over. Like, hey, y'all wild.
Yeah.
When it was time, so Jackson Public Schools got 2 Fs. When it was time for the state of Mississippi to take it over, Phil Bryant was the governor at the time. He went to go talk to the mayor, and basically went to the mayor and was like, we don't really want to do this. Basically, he was like, we don't care enough to take it over. Can y'all do something about this and fix it? Basically. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
like they literally view Jackson as like not even a part of their house.
I think
It's
people
like
fought against them taking it over, though.
Some people did fight against taking it over because they thought that the state wasn't going to do right by it too.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter was, the state also didn't want to take it over either. So you ain't got to fight me over it, bro. I don't want it. You know what I'm saying? Like it really, and they didn't want it because Jackson Public Schools is an all black school district.
Right.
All brown babies, right? And so people don't want to say like, oh, they have to get it. They just don't care. It's negligence. And let me tell you the other piece of how I know it is that because Jackson Public Schools is the largest school district in the state of Mississippi.
Right.
This ain't no little school district. Oh man, y'all fix that. This is your school. This is the school
the
district
big one.
of the state.
This is the big
Jackson's
one.
the largest. This is it. And the state of Mississippi just kind of be like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Yeah.
the Constitution say you need to. We good. Like you would think, like, hey, like this is your best interest. Like this is something that can help the state out. But again, they don't care. Again, because most of the state politicians, their kids don't go to JPS. They don't. It's
ain't
really
worried
just
about it.
a,
They going to
my kid.
private.
They going to private or they going to Flowood or Pearl or whatever they need. They're like, I don't care. Like that ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Like we're fine over here.
Even when that
That's the issue.
Even when that bill, when we was trying to vote for, I forgot the actual number of the bill, but it was gonna allocate the funding to schools that needed it and kind of make the level field. I mean the field level. People just voted against it. I just was like,
because by numbers and by deed, it'll be Jackson Public Schools that would get a lot of those resources. But they also think that Jackson Public Schools ain't ran well because black people run it. And they just see that Jackson not run well because black people run it.
we both products of black JPS
JPS
schools.
So watching people do JPS wrong and do Jackson wrong, and then obviously I was gonna say this earlier. Obviously, we got tons of stories of them. The disinvestment in terms of business. The state of Mississippi always court businesses to move into other areas outside Jackson. They'll tell them don't go to Jackson, go to Flowood.
Yeah.
Go to Madison.
Like Top Golf.
You know what I'm saying? Like exactly. And it's
Top
like,
Golf in the hood and every other place.
yeah. but it's in Jackson. No, don't go over there. So there's multiple stories of divestment in Jackson in that way. But those other 2 stories are just the divestment between Jackson Public Schools and the takeover, which I wouldn't want the state to take over either. But also the state didn't want to take over, which like blew my mind. Like wow, it really like we just don't care. Like we really don't. And then the big thing with the water was like them not even wanting to put up the resources to fix the water downtown where they use. I was just like wow. Like they just was like, nah, I just don't care, bro. Like this ain't got nothing to do with me. What they got to do with me? Yeah. They gonna leave you over there to your side. And so that's the issue. And as long as the state of Mississippi does that, the state of Mississippi will not prosper.
Right.
That's the issue. Capital cities were built, that's where most people at. When you bring people to Mississippi, they don't understand that people outside moving to Mississippi are more likely to want to come to Jackson. So you need to make sure you take care of your best asset. They don't view Jackson as their best asset. It's like you a dribbler and you like, I'm trying to work on my shot. It's like, bro, that ain't your best asset.
It's crazy because I feel like Deion and Jackson State football is almost our best asset.
You know what I'm saying? It is in the whole state.
And
that's just one thing. Like, imagine if you can be that. And so the state of Mississippi be too busy trying to compete with places like Texas and Atlanta. They try to play with ideas of like the big idea was we're gonna cut taxes so we can keep young people like Sam and Sarah Caroline and Nick to stay in Mississippi because they really give a shit about not being able to pay taxes, income taxes. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna keep them to stay in the state of Mississippi and not move to Texas. Texas can do that because Texas got a whole bunch of stuff to get you to move there.
Right.
And that's the added bit. They also got a bunch of jobs and a bunch of high-paying jobs where when you ain't got to pay income tax, it's advantageous for you.
And then they don't have a bunch of empty buildings
Exactly.
just everywhere.
Where and investment in people here, and they also got other people like you, like-minded folks like me, and young folks that's moving there. You know what I'm saying? To be a part of that community. And so you got to do whatever you got to do to get people to stay here in the state of Mississippi and Jackson. And people are more likely going to visit Jackson, so you got to take care of Jackson. Jackson is a wonderful asset and the most creative, and the best asset for our creative community. And we need to, the state of Mississippi and everybody here needs to recognize it and treat it as such. I ain't saying it's perfect, but it's just like, we got to do better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So yeah, man, shout out to you. You putting them building blocks in place, man. You doing your part, bro. So,
Trying to.
So hopefully, you know, these politicians get on board, and you know, we here for you. And you know, we're gonna round this interview off, man.
Yeah.
It's been great seeing you, bro. Great
Appreciate it,
talking
man.
with you, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, we out. Peace.